Good day and welcome back to my channel. So this is something that I was looking through some of the things that I've done here and realized I hadn't sort of illustrated this part. I sort of implied it, and I showed how I base the spots here that were broken. But one of the things I didn't do was sort of be explicit about how I'm doing the edges around each of the buildings. So you can see there's the basing snow, right? That's around each of these edges, and like here, there's a definite distinct paint color difference because it's been hand painted, and it's different from the dark gray that I used here. And this has already had one layer of weathering on it, or at least lightening on it. So what do we do? What do I do about it? So the color that I'm using to match here is this. It's the Vallejo model color black gray, and this is a really nice black. It's a really nice off black. It's like almost a dark German gray, which is very similar to what this color is. And it takes it down dark, and then it's something I can bring back up with highlights and so forth. But before I can do, to get to here, I've got to blend these edges. So you can see fairly clearly there's gaps, right? So there's gaps where these buildings are. There's also this flat space where the spot that was on the vac form base for the building parts doesn't really match where the buildings go. I don't have to do this for all of the travel tubes too, but what I'm doing here is essentially the same thing as I was doing for these edges. Is I'm just coming in and I'm just putting a little bit of PVA, and that's what I'm using. I'm using PVA, and I'm just dabbing it right at the base, right where that edge is, right? And essentially what I have is I've got my big bucket of PVA that I showed in the other video, right? So I'm just coming in here. I have to keep moving it because my hand will get into it. I haven't dipped my finger in it already like 15 times in the 30 seconds I've been trying to film this. And then just go around the base. I've got, a couple of minutes to do this, so I'm not really in a hurry. I want the glue to stay damp but tacky, so that when I put the basing material on, I can just kind of knock it around. And I'm looking to cover that seam, right? I'm looking to just fill the seam between the base and the building. So like right there, it looks okay. So I don't really have to do anything there. Now I've done that part. So what I'll do is I'll lift this up a bit so I'm working with gravity. And then I will just sprinkle in just a little bit of that snow basing material. It's the same stuff that I've been using, that I did for this. It's exactly the same stuff. It's the same, that same palette worth of things. And because I scratch, I scrape it back off of the desk, you get little flakes. And for the most part, those flakes are going to just go away anyway when I knock it off. But if I'm not sure, or if you're not sure and you want to be certain, you can just pick them off. But there. So, all right. So now what that'll do, kind of work. I'm having difficulty working around a camera. This is sort of a new thing. Let's zoom that in. All right. So what that's doing is that's just bringing the texture of the surface up to the base, so that when I paint this in, I don't have this, or when I'm done here, I don't have this gap. So there's a gap right there. I don't like it. Now, am I overdoing it here? Entirely possible. I mean, we're talking a very little bit. But on the flip side, the scale of this thing is 1/3200th or some silliness like that. So where is it? There we go. Now there's a huge gap right there. So, and then I'm just going to come in here, pull it along. I want to make sure I get that flat part and put those in there. And when you're dealing with a kit like this, so it's really simplistic. The kit itself is simplistic. So when you're looking to achieve, when you're looking to make it look, you got to have, well, let me rephrase. Define your victory conditions, right? Define what you're looking the model kit to do. So like one of the things I chose not to do, right, is I chose not to put fiber optics in this. I could have, but I chose not to because there's, from my perspective, no reason. The lighting is, I mean, for the most part, the lighting for the show was done with reflective tape. They used little pieces of, I don't think it was aluminum foil, but it was just taped on pieces of reflector. And the windows were literally that. They were literally reflecting. So hold on one second. Move this so I can then knock it. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come back out. Because of that, there's some of that stuff on. There was a spot that had that was still sort of something of a gap. I wanted to make sure I filled in. There. And there we go. So what they did with the actual set was this reflective tape to get lighting. And then they would just shine lights into the thing and it would reflect back into the camera and it looked like lights. Very rarely, matter of fact, I can only think of one episode where they actually showed the lights on the base being turned on and off. And it was season 1's, oh goodness, I think it was episode 2 or 3, where technician Anton something or other, you know what, I'm going to put a caption down below on what that episode was, because it literally was episode 2 or episode 3, where, an alien force was absorbed into one of the residents of the Moonbase and was sucking up energy. And so they were turning power off to drive the alien force in some direction. But it's the only time that I can think, that I remember, where the lights that were on the Moonbase were actually, turned on or off. So all of that to say, I didn't really think doing fiber optics was really necessary on this, mostly because it's a lot of work, and I'm not really convinced it's the effect is worth it, right? I'm not going to have this sitting on my shelf with the lights on, right? So I did, and the one, I think it was like my first video, or first series of this video, first episode of this series. Here we go. I showed this one, right, where I had tried the fiber optics for the landing gear and they just didn't work. Now this size would work if I wanted to put windows, but again, I kind of think that would be going over the top and maybe not really worth it. So all of that to pretty much say, definition of victory conditions is what's important. So what do you want? What do you want out of the kit? What do you want out of the result of what you're doing? So a kit like this, which is literally let's see if I can switch over here and get a better angle, which literally is a jigsaw puzzle. There's really not much to it. There's no real assembly. It's just, there's no model building. It's all about the finishing. This kit is how you finish. I mean, the pieces are what they are. It's difficult. There's not a lot you can do to improve the pieces, because the detail of the model itself, the original subject is sort of me, right? I mean, it's just a whole bunch of plates glued onto flat sheet. So you have that effect right here. Now, you could, if you really wanted to, go all out and see if you can make them perfectly accurate to the screen. And now that's, again, another layer of model work that one could do. But at that point, if you're going to do that, what's the point of getting this kit? Because now see, I didn't quite fill that in. So if you're going to that level, there's no point in buying a kit. Something like this, you might as well just build it from scratch, right? Because again, it's literally plate that is stuck onto other flat plates, and you can make the flat plates. It's not that hard. It's just a matter of measuring and cutting and gluing little detail pieces on. All right, so while I've been waffling here, I've done those 2 pieces. Let me knock those out. All right, so let me finish that, and then we'll call this one an episode. So swing this around to another better angle. So I apologize if folks are getting dizzy. Put this up under here. There, so I still need to get that. So around here. So the victory condition for me for this is to be happy with what it looks like on my shelf. I'm not going to have it sitting there with lights. I'm not going to turn them on. I have a few kits that I built that are lit, that have, so like Serenity, right? If you found my video channel or my channel, there's a series where I did, the Firefly Serenity. That one's lit. I think I've had the lights on for about 15 minutes for the entire time that I've had the kit finished, to kind of show it off. But you don't sit there and just leave the lights on, or I don't. Mostly because I expect doing so the lights will eventually burn out, and then I'll have to go in and fix them. And that's just not what I'm going to do. They're not really, it's not a night light. It's not it's not made to be a leave on all the time kind of thing. Okay, so there's no point in me doing that for this. So for this kit, for what we have, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up now. For what we have here, the victory condition, if you want to call it that, is what does this look like sitting on the shelf in the in the majority of the time. So the what I need to do that is come up with the kind of contrast I'm looking for. Now we've seen, and again, a couple of my first videos, I put up pictures of what the Alpha Moonbase looked like on set, or what it looked like, on screen. There's a model that was done up for one of the episodes. I think the second episode or third episode, Black Sun. There was actually a model of the Moonbase for this show to be used. I'm looking for that. So when I look at this, I want this to be what I remember. And so that's my victory condition. So there's no lighting. So these detail pieces are what matter. So, all of that noise to sort of babble while I was doing the work is to get the end result to be something that looks good, means I need those detail pieces to be correct. Or at least to be appropriate. So like here, where the ground meets the moon base, that's where I need. And then here, where I start to do the shading, you can see I actually have rays of dust coming out away from coming out of the moon base here. And then as I get to doing the highlighting for around these craters that are here, again, it's going to, the difference in color, I want to follow what the lunar surface would look like. So that's what we're going for. Those are the details that matter. So to do that, that's what I was doing around the base of the thing. So I'm going to move on, do that. And next up, sort of the last step, obviously you can see I have all the landing pads down. I am now at the final step, which is put on all the travel tubes, which is basically taking these guys, cutting them, and note, and I'm going to call this out again, right? They're square-ish. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus on them. My finger up there. There we go. So they're square-ish, right? But there's a distinct. One of them, one side has these ejector pins, one side does not. So that makes those the top. I think they were probably meant to be the other way around, but because I think the side with the ejector pins are a little bit smaller, but I don't think it's going to matter when we do that. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm not going to necessarily, this is what they give you. You're supposed to measure and cut and do all that. What I'm going to do is match up which one of these are which, and actually, like, so A1, I want to find out, so A1 is this one here. All right, I'm not going to worry about that one. What I'm looking for these ones that are specific lengths. So there's a fixed point and a fixed point. And this is the important thing. Each one of these things where you have a fixed point to a fixed point, this has to be exact to length because it needs to fit. And where you dropped, so let's see, let's just use one for an example. So this one here, right, this piece here, from here to here would be here to here to here. So this actually has a piece in the middle. So actually that's not another, it's another. So what I would need to do is actually drop the piece that's going to go there, and then actually put it. So this one's a good one. This guy here. So that's a straight travel tube from this end to this end. There we go. Now I finally found it. So what I want to do is I actually want to take the piece and drop it in and cut it to measure there. I don't necessarily want to use this. I want to use what I have on the base, because that is measured for where they put their pieces. And I guarantee you these pieces are off by more than 1 millimeter. Just no matter how you line these up, the places that they'd marked on the sheet, on the vac form for these parts, they're not going to be exact. They have no locating pins. They're just glued on. And a gap of 1 millimeter is going to show. You know, there's a gap of about 2 mil, maybe 1.5 mil. Well, if that's the distance here, that's going to show, right? So what I am going to do and what I'm recommending is, once you get all these buildings down, then do all the pieces that have the fixed endpoint to endpoint. So this one. All right, so these two, that one, and do those first. Get all those in, because all of these here, this endpoint, it can be wherever, right? It can be a couple mils short, and no one will know, and it won't show. And then you fill in the gap just like we did here, right? So if this is like here, if it ends up being 3 or 4 millimeters short, and you have it sitting right here, so then you just have a little bit there to fill in, just like you did here. And I will be doing all around the edges anyway. So I waffled down a whole lot longer than I meant to. I actually thought this was going to be like a really short one, but those are details, thought process, babbling, waffle. So if anybody is still here, thanks for sticking around, not getting too terribly bored. And until next, I will come back after I've gotten those things laid down and we get into painting. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this is helpful and so forth. And until next time, happy modeling.